Welcome to the first podcast for Rising Crime. This podcast will be used as an extension to my Rising Crime News YouTube channel to go a little more in depth on some stories and to cover things that you can't really talk about on YouTube without getting into some kind of trouble. So I came across this article that was entitled Off-Campus UC Berkeley Student Housing Bans White People from Common Areas. And I'm going to just kind of read through this article to you. And it goes like this. An off-campus housing co-op for the University of California Berkley students bans white people from entering common spaces to avoid white violence. The 5-story, 30-room, person of color themed house near the school requires students to declare their race when signing in and to announce when they're bringing white guests into the building. Many people of color move here to be able to avoid white violence and presence. So respect their decision of avoidance if you bring white guests. The rules declare this. White guests are not allowed in common spaces. The building, which houses up to 56 students a few blocks from the university, also urges students to avoid bringing family members that express bigotry. Queer, Black, and Indigenous members should not have to avoid common spaces because of a homophobic or racist parent or family members. The building was set up by the Berkeley Student Cooperative to bring affordable housing to low-income, first-generation, immigrant, and marginalized students of color. But some of the rules sparked outrage, with students saying they're too aggressive and defy the spirit of inclusion. One mixed-race student, who claimed to have lived at the house, said that their presence as a light-skinned person was not received well, and that they were called a lot of slurs. His dad was not allowed to enter the house because he was white. And another article, I'm going to jump to a different article now to get a little bit more information on this. The house rules, tenants are instructed not to bring white guests to the home without permission and to keep white guests from common areas. White people are not entirely banned from the housing premises, but those wishing to bring white guests into the building must alert other tenants. Always announce guests in the guest chat if they're going to be in common spaces with you if they are white. White people are entirely banned from entering shared spaces within the home to allow people of color to avoid white presence. The person of color themed house exists to create a safe and welcoming space for its house members and build solidarity with communities of color in the Berkeley area. That's not racist. They have made an entire building, an entire housing unit at the University of California Berkley campus, it's not run by the school, it's independently owned building, but white people are not allowed in the building without special permission. Now think of what would happen if this was done in the reverse. If a group of white people decided they didn't want to let any people of color into their building, and people of color needed a special permission in order to enter or be in any common area, the place would be burned down. There'd be riots every day. Nobody'd be able to enter or leave without being bombarded by thousands of people protesting outside. But it's okay to totally keep white people from going someplace. So I just looked up the definition of discrimination, and it says the treatment or consideration based on class or category, such as race or gender, rather than individual merit, partiality, or prejudice. So what's going on here in California is the exact definition of discrimination. Only because it's happening against white people, I guess it doesn't count. I guess it's not racist if it's happening against white people, only if it's happening against people of color. So people of color can basically do whatever they want. They can be as racist as they want against white people, and that doesn't count. I did actually just do a story, though, on my YouTube channel about 4 black girls who got arrested for beating up a white woman on a bus, and they were actually charged with a hate crime. And that's the first time I've come across that somebody being charged, a person of color being charged with a hate crime against a white person. Because generally, if a black person is doing it, they don't call it a hate crime, because apparently black people can't be racist. Now, I'm not saying this, I'm just basing that on what you see and what you hear, is that the way the rules are set up is that only white people can be racist. But this thing at UC Berkeley is the exact definition of racism, discrimination, and everything else that they're supposedly trying to get rid of when it comes to people of color, but now they're just creating it in a reverse. And I've often wondered on this stuff. Like years ago, I wondered, when they do this, all this stuff, it's like they're trying to make the people of color segregate themselves against the white people. So it's like they want, some of these people that are in charge, I believe a lot of them are racist. I believe a lot of the Democrat Party is racist. And they go about things in ways that people don't really understand, and they don't really get it until they really think about it. And if you think about it, if you were white and you're a politician and you have ways of controlling these things, or if you're just a powerful person and you're white and you are racist and you don't want people of color, like you want to segregate them, but you don't want to do it and look bad, so you make it look like it's bad to be, if you're a person of color, you make them want to segregate themselves against white people. So you got a group of white people convincing black people that it's good for them to segregate themselves against the evil white people. So they're self-segregating. So these racist white people, who many are in charge of our country, have created this whole thing where they're getting people to self-segregate without them having to do it. And I think this is really happening, and I've thought this for years, because for years there's been things where it's like they're trying to get people to self-segregate, for people to not mix. And it makes total sense now when they're doing stuff like this in California. This is the tip of the spear. California does it, and then it starts spreading across the country. So we're going to have all this self-segregated groups and all these areas that white people will be banned from. And the people that like kind of created this or mastermind all this, they'll be happy with that, because they didn't want the black people or the people of color around them anyway. So they create this whole big thing, and they get all these people of color to buy into it. And now they're getting what they want. They're getting the segregation that they lost back in the 60s. And they lost it, and they want it back now. And the only way to get it back and not look bad is to have them self-segregate. So that's all I got for this first podcast. I just wanted to throw a quick one out to kind of get the feel for doing it and to just kind of start building an audience. They'll get longer and probably better as time goes by. But this is the first one. Hope you liked it. If you do, check back in for the next one. I'll try and put them out on a regular basis. And thanks for listening. Support this channel and pick yourself up some original crime-related apparel. Look for the link in the description.